The Apache woman bought a ranch for $1, then met the horse living inside, which changed everything. The wind didn't whistle that morning. It simply moved. Slow, heavy, like an old breath over land too tired to fight it. Dust lifted in soft curls around the boots of a woman who hadn't spoken to anyone in days. She stood at the edge of the cracked wooden gate, her long braids tied with red thread, the only color against the gray sky. Her jacket, once black, was now earth-stained and faded, Apache by blood, alone by choice. Her name was Lena, 42 winters behind her. She had paid $1 for this forgotten patch of desert and the bones of a ranch no one wanted. The house, if you could call it that, leaned slightly to the left like it had given up. Its windows were dark, half broken, doors swinging crooked on rusted hinges. The barn, though, stood strangely intact, as if something inside refused to fall with the rest. She didn't expect much. Just land, silence, a place to disappear. But when she pushed open the barn's weather-warped doors, she stopped breathing. Inside, under rays of soft light breaking through the slats, stood a white horse, tall, still, watching her. Its ribs showed beneath its coat. Dust clung to its mane like old sorrow, but it didn't run. It didn't even flinch. Its eyes, dark, glassy, and endless, held her, not with fear, but recognition, like it had been waiting. Lena stepped forward slowly, boots creaking on old wood. She whispered, "You stayed." The horse blinked. A halter still hung around its head, frayed, leather dried. Someone had left it here, alone, forgotten, just like her. In that silent moment, something shifted, not in the barn, but inside her chest. A flicker, pain shaped like memory. She should have turned away, but she didn't. The horse didn't move. Neither did Lena. She took one slow step forward, her breath shallow. A broken feed bucket lay tipped in the corner. Dried hay, no water, no sound but the occasional creak of wood settling after years of being alone. Lena reached out, hand trembling, fingers stopping just short of the horse's cheek. The animal flinched, not away but inward, like something bracing for another blow that never came. She saw it then, in the subtle shiver, in the half-lowered eyes. Fear. Not wild fear. Not from instinct, but the kind that's been taught, over time, by hands that should have been kind. Lena exhaled sharply, stepped back, and sat on an overturned bucket. Just rose. Her knees ached. Her chest, too. The silence of the barn wrapped around them like a blanket too thin to warm anything. The horse turned its head slightly, watching her, waiting. She rubbed her face with her palm. Damn, a memory came, faint, quick. A girl, younger, maybe 16, hiding beneath the porch, shivering in the night while boots stomped above her. Her mother's voice. Then silence, then sirens, then nothing. Just a foster home that smelled like bleach and closed doors. She hadn't touched anyone in years. Not really. This horse, this creature, and was someone's burden once. Then, like her, it became no one's, left behind in silence. Surviving on instinct and scraps, she stood. "Why didn't you run?" she asked aloud. The horse blinked slowly. Trust didn't come easy, yet it hadn't bolted. Neither had she. Lena paced the barn once, twice. Each time her boots dragged heavier. She glanced at the door, open. The wind outside carried freedom. She could walk away. She'd bought the land, not the memories, but something in the horse's stillness, its quiet endurance, refused to let her. She grabbed the old water trough, dragged it toward the rusted spigot outside, filled it, slow and splashing, her arms trembling from disuse and age. She searched the cabinets for oats or anything edible, found half a sack, molded but usable. By the time she returned, the horse hadn't moved an inch, but its ears perked. Lena placed the water near, careful not to get too close. The horse stepped forward, slow, deliberate. It drank. Lena watched in silence, then whispered, "Guess we both made it this far." That night she stayed in the barn, not because she had to, but because something told her neither of them should be alone anymore. It began with a truck, old, loud, and out of place. Dust kicked up behind it like a warning. Lena was hauling a half-rotten bale of hay when she heard it, the crunch of tires over dry gravel. She froze. The horse, she had started calling him Ghost, lifted his head, ears stiff. No one should be here. Not out this far. Not unless they were looking for something, or someone. The truck stopped at the front gate. Two men stepped out, heavy boots, heavy breath, light eyes that didn't smile. One wore a leather vest stained with oil. The other carried a clipboard. Lena stayed behind the barn wall, hidden, listening. This the one. The man with the vest asked, spitting tobacco onto the cracked earth. Yup, this was McCready's place. Sold it for $1. Said it was cursed. Guess she bought it. The name made her jaw tighten. McCready, that man, had been known across counties, not for kindness. For broken promises and bruises he left behind. Horses, women, even his own kin. The other man flipped a paper. Sheriff says the animal's legally his. Registered and all. If it's still alive, it's his problem. Thing ain't worth more than dog meat now, the man grunted. But orders are orders. McCready wants it back. Lena's hand curled into a fist. He wanted Ghost back, the man who'd left a horse to starve, who'd walked away from a soul still breathing. Her breath grew shallow. She peeked around the edge. One of the men was already walking toward the barn. She looked at Ghost. He was still but not calm. His eyes widened. Hooves shifted on the straw. He knew them, Lena. Remembered that same look on a girl in a group home when the door creaked open and a man she thought was gone returned. No, one had believed her, but Lena believed Ghost. She reached for the old shotgun hanging on a nail near the stall, empty, useless, but it looked loaded. The man opened the barn door. She stepped out of the shadows, barrel raised. Voice low. He's mine now, the man smirked. You think $1 bought you that horse? No, she said. But it bought me this land, and he's standing on it. The man glanced at the other, who now leaned on the gate, amused. Lady, you don't know who you're messing with. Lena stared him down. Yes, I do. They left. Not in fear, in patience, but she knew what that meant. They'd be back, and next time they wouldn't ask. That night she bolted the barn doors, slept with the shotgun beside her. Ghost stood watch, facing the dark. They were both survivors, but the past had found them again. The days grew shorter, the wind colder. Lena fixed the barn roof herself. Board by board, nail by nail. Ghost stood nearby, always watching, and never tied, never asked to stay. But he did. Every morning she brought water first, then herself. Small routine, wordless loyalty. She never touched him, not fully. But she brushed his coat with soft, slow strokes, careful not to move too fast. Each time her hand passed over an old scar on his flank, she paused, wondered, then kept going. One night she cooked beans over a small fire just outside the barn. No light inside the house yet. She hadn't gone in since she arrived. Ghost stood a few feet away, watching the flames. Watching her, she ate in silence. Set the plate down beside her. Not close, just near enough. Ghost came, sniffed, took one bite. She smiled barely. You've got bad taste. A branch cracked in the dark. Her body tensed, but it was only a bird. Still, she reached for the old shotgun out of habit. Ghost didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped closer. Lena looked at him. For the first time, really looked. His eyes weren't just dark. They were tired, older than he should have been. I know, she whispered, and she did. Later, under the faint moonlight, she sat beside him in the stall. No saddle, no rope, just two beings breathing in the same space, haunted by different ghosts. She rolled up her sleeve, slowly. Her forearm bore a long, jagged scar. Faded now, but still ugly. Broken bottle, she said softly. I told them I fell. They didn't care either way. Ghost shifted. His muzzle brushed her shoulder, soft, gentle. It was the first time he'd touched her. She closed her eyes. Another memory flickered. Her brother, barely 7, crying in the dark. She'd covered his ears while fists slammed the door. She never saw him again. I left someone once, she murmured. And I never forgave myself. The horse lowered his head, rested it lightly near her knee. She didn't move, didn't breathe. The pain, the guilt, the years of silence, none of it disappeared. But in that moment, it softened. Two broken things, no longer breaking, just being. That night, she brought her blanket into the barn and slept beside the stall. Ghost stayed near, unmoving, like a silent sentinel. The world outside was waiting. She knew it. But for now, the war was paused, and peace, however fragile, had settled between two souls who had long forgotten what safety felt like. They came just after sundown. No headlights, no engine growl this time. Just silence, then boots. Lena heard the crunch of gravel and knew. She stood in the barn's doorway, Ghost behind her, ears twitching. 3 men. One held a chain, another a tranquilizer rifle. The third, taller, older, meaner, wore a badge on his belt that hadn't been earned, only inherited. MacCready, she muttered. He hadn't aged well. Skin leathery, eyes hollow, but his voice still cracked like bone. "Step aside, woman." "That's my horse." Lena didn't move. "You left him to die?" "He's property," MacCready spat. "You think a beast like that's worth your breath?" Ghost stomped once, sharp, alert. "He's not property," she said. "He's witness," MacCready laughed. "To what? Some Apache woman's delusion?" The one with the rifle stepped forward, raised it. "We ain't here to talk." Lena raised the old shotgun. Her hands didn't tremble. "This doesn't have shells," MacCready smirked. "Then shoot me," she said. "You'll have to if you want him." The men paused. MacCready's eyes narrowed. "He's dangerous. Nearly killed my brother once. Spooked in the round pen and broke his ribs." Lena glanced back at Ghost. "Spooked or resisted?" She whispered almost to herself, "You beat him, didn't you?" A flicker of guilt, then rage, passed across MacCready's face. "He's mine," he hissed. "No," she said. "He survived you. That means he's free." The man raised his hand. The rifle clicked. In that split second, Ghost moved. He lunged forward, not wild, not reckless, just enough to place himself between the rifle and Lena. A shot cracked. Lena dropped to her knees. The dart stuck in Ghost's neck. "No!" He stumbled once. Then again. Legs folding, eyes dimming. Lena rushed forward, catching his head before it hit the ground. He breathed, shallow, slow, but alive. "You monsters," she growled. MacCready stepped forward, reaching for the chain. Lena grabbed the shotgun, swung it. It connected with his jaw. He dropped with a grunt. The other men raised their weapons, but she stood over Ghost, her body a wall. "Shoot again," she dared. "And I'll burn this whole place to the dirt." The wind howled behind her like a scream. MacCready, groaning, wiped blood from his lip. He looked at Ghost, unconscious but alive, then at Lena. "Keep him," he spat. "He ain't worth dying for." They left, no threats. No promises, just retreat. Lena dropped the shotgun, held Ghost's face close. "You didn't run," she whispered. "Not even now." Neither did she. Lena sat beside Ghost as the night deepened. His breaths were shallow but steady. The tranquilizer hadn't killed him, but it had taken its toll. The barn lights flickered from the old generator humming behind the stalls, faint, fragile, like everything else here. She ran a cloth over his neck, whispering things she hadn't said to anyone in years. Not words of comfort, just presence. Outside, the desert was silent again. No engines, no boots, just wind through mesquite and old wood, creaking under memory. By morning, Ghost stirred, groggy but aware. His legs trembled as he stood, and Lena stayed close, not to guide him but to let him know he wasn't alone. When he finally leaned into her, she wept. No sound, just the weight of survival pressing against her chest, leaking out through trembling hands. She packed that afternoon, not much, a saddlebag of essentials, tools, oats, an old flask of water, a faded photo of her brother, folded and cracked. Ghost followed without lead or command. They left the ranch without locking it, let it rot, let the wind take what was left. That place was never home. It was only where pain had been interrupted long enough for healing to begin. They walked for miles, her boots dragging, his hooves silent on dirt roads. At dusk, they reached the ridge that overlooked the valley. Golden light spilled across the land like an apology. She stopped, turned back, watched. The sun set behind the place where blood had once shouted and silence had screamed louder. No, one chased them. Not yet, but she knew men like MacCready. He wouldn't let go. He wouldn't forget. Still, she didn't run. she would find a new town. Or no town at all. Maybe open sky and stars were enough. She touched Ghost's neck. He nuzzled her shoulder. 2 scars. 1 bond. She had protected him. He had saved her. Neither would go back. And though the world would try again, with chains, bullets, or papers, they now had something stronger. Each other. Seasons passed without permission. Grass returned where none had grown for years. The wind, once sharp, softened into song. Somewhere in the high desert, far from county lines and deeds and blood-stained ownership, Lena and Ghost built something that didn't need walls to feel like home. She didn't buy another ranch, didn't sign papers, just found a stretch of land that didn't belong to anyone, or maybe belonged to everyone who'd ever been broken. Each morning, she'd boil coffee in a tin pot while Ghost grazed nearby. At night, they shared firelight and quiet. No fences, no barns. Only trust. People came sometimes. A lost hiker. A boy running from somewhere. A woman too bruised to speak. Lena never asked why. She just nodded, shared food, pointed to the stars. Some stayed. Helped build shelters out of stone and scrap. Others moved on, softer than when they arrived. No one left emptier. Ghost aged, slower now, eyes clouding. But he never lost the way he carried himself. Proud, alert, alive. He limped a little but never laid down. Not until the day the sky turned grey, and he walked up the hill one last time, stood beneath the tree where birds always nested, and let himself rest. Lena buried him with her hands. No marker, just stones laid in a circle, and a braid of his mane tied to hers. She sat beside the grave as the sun dipped low. Her face was older now, carved by peace and pain, but her eyes, they no longer hid. She held a leather journal in her lap, pages filled with names, notes, a map drawn in ink and memory. She closed it, looked at the wind moving through the valley, then whispered, "We weren't meant to be saved. We were meant to survive and teach others how." She stood, braids swaying, and walked back into the open land, as if the sky itself was listening. He was never just a horse. He was the first soul that stayed when silence didn't scare him.